Okay. We're in studio with Ken McFadden, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about some of his experiences in managing others. So Ken, tell us. What's your first question?
What am I looking for in the workplace?
So Ken, tell us. Look there. So Ken, tell us, what are you looking for in the workplace?
One of the things that I'm looking for in the workplace is I'm looking for upward mobility. I feel that it's very important to find ways to advance my career. I'm looking to learn transferable skills that not only that I can apply to my current job, but maybe a future position. And most importantly, I would say a good work-life balance. I definitely don't want to work a job too long that doesn't allow me to enjoy my personal time. So those are some of the things that I'm looking for.
Do you feel that that is also the sentiment of most of your other workers, or do you find that some of the other workers that you manage, perhaps, do they share that sentiment?
Well, if you're talking about, if we're specifically talking about millennials, then absolutely. I think that work and personal life, I mean, it merges. It's not like your life cuts off when you go to work. So it's very important to our generation that you do what you love. That way it doesn't necessarily feel like work. I mean, it's a common ritual. You work 8 to 10 hours out of the day, and then we usually go to a social place for happy hour, and you're around people that you work with or people that are in your same industry. And even though you're off work, you're constantly networking, trying to find ways to advance in your respective career or field. So work-life balance is important to us.
You know, I asked that because earlier you and I were talking about some of your other co-workers and some of the people that you do manage, and they were in an older generation, such as baby boomers. And you had mentioned to me some interesting facts about how they perhaps did not have that same work-life balance, and that they would work beyond or even when they were ill. Can you elaborate further for our listeners today?
Okay. I've seen this happen so many times with my older teammates, the baby boomers. They will come to work sick. I've had some that come to work with pneumonia, flu, and I asked them, why did you come to work knowing that you were struggling on the way to get here? And usually the common response that I get is that this is just what I do. You know, I work, I come to work. I'm not gonna skip out. And they'll usually say something, well, you know, you guys need me. And I'm appreciative. Most of the times I have to send them home. But I do appreciate the effort. I would say that's a big difference from my experience with some of my younger workers. I would even say some of my millennials. If they feel a cold coming on, sometimes they're like, you know, when I feel like I'm getting sick, I can't come to work. I've had some of my baby boomers come to work under terrible road conditions. Here in Nashville, we had almost 8 inches of snow, and we eventually shut down the building due to the inclement weather, but I still had baby boomers coming, and I would say only 8 people showed that day, and out of that 8, 5 were my older teammates. And I know that some of them travel quite far to get there. So definitely a big difference in the work ethic mentality between our baby boomers and our millennials from my personal management experience.
And you know, you have to wonder where that comes from. And being an older worker myself, a Gen Joneser, almost a baby boomer, I know it comes from a place of intense loyalty. And I think that older workers use an act or a demonstration such as you described to show that they're very loyal to the company and they appreciate their jobs and that they want to keep their jobs. So if that is not the case with your younger workers, what are we looking for in millennials to show us that same type of loyalty? Perhaps how do they show loyalty, or how do they demonstrate that they're very much appreciative of their jobs?
Well, when it comes to showing loyalty, I think that millennials use other methods of showing loyalty, something that I would say that some of my baby boomers don't realize or understand. So we have a policy here at work. It's a new policy that just went into effect, and is that if you call out sick, you're expected to pick up the phone and notify one automated line to let them know that you're not coming, and then you actually have to also make an additional call to your manager and have a conversation. Now, prior to this policy being in effect, all of my baby boomers, they have my number, they will call me. Not only would they call me, they would leave a voicemail to let me know that, hey, I called you, I left you a voicemail, and most of the times I was already in a meeting, so I couldn't pick up the phone. Now, with my millennials, they struggle with this policy. They're good with calling the automated system because you don't have to talk to a person, but they rarely actually call me. As a way to show me that, hey, I'm still touching base with you, I'm still loyal to you, I found out that it's easier for them to text me or shoot me an email from their personal address, from the personal email address. Me being a millennial manager, I can understand the text. I can take the text. I can understand the email. I'm more bottom line oriented. They touch base with me. I don't necessarily have to have the phone interaction.
You know, and you know, just bringing that up, we're looking at the different ways that millennials like to receive information versus how baby boomers or Gen X's like to receive the same information. Can you describe that for us? What is a millennial? What does information gathering and information receiving look like for your millennial workers versus your other generational workers?
Okay, so I would say my other generational.
Generational.
Yeah, let's edit that.
So, how would you talking about communicating and how you like to receive information, talk about how your millennials like to receive information versus how your Gen Xers or your boomers like to receive information.
Well, I would like to separate. I think the Gen Xers are a little bit closer to the millennials. Like for instance, my manager, he's only 5-6 years older than me, but he's actually a Gen Xer. So I think that we're closer in the way that we receive information and how we process it. So if I had to give you an example, okay, baby boomers, from my experience, this is how they receive information: pencil, paper, pen, opposed to typing. And for my generation, I'm just gonna get up for a second. This is how we receive and process our information. If I had an iPad, I would say that's just an extension of our cell phones, laptops. First thing in the morning, one of the first things I do is that I check my phone. Well, first of all, I don't use a clock. I use my phone as my alarm clock. I use my phone for all my reminders, for my appointments, and my home screen, I have a news feed that lets me know what's going on in the world. So first thing in the morning, I know what's going on from Nashville to Brazil at the tip of my fingertips. I know what people are talking about on social media. I know what's going on in politics. I know what's products that are for sale. I'm getting tons of information sent to me on a daily basis, all through here. And I would say that's one of the biggest differences between the generations is technology.
But as a manager, how do you give the information, or how do you control for these variations? Do your boomers meet the technology challenge, or do you make leeway or give leeway for them as they sometimes struggle?
Some of my boomers have struggled. So there was a situation where I sent out an Excel spreadsheet for everyone to fill out and return it back to me, because I had to compile it and put it into one big worksheet. And two of my boomers printed off the Excel spreadsheet and filled it out with a pen, and they laid it on my desk. So that wasn't going to work, because that would have been more time consuming, and then two, if I allowed that to happen, then they would do that constantly, because I'm always compiling information from them, and I need it electronically. So I had to sit down with them, and I had to teach them. I had to teach them how to fill out an Excel spreadsheet. And actually, it's funny, today, I needed one of my boomers, and actually it's one of the boomers that I taught how to do it. I taught how to do Excel. I told her that she needed to email me something, and she emailed me the information in an Excel spreadsheet, which is she didn't need to. She could have just put it in a Word document, but I thought it was impressive that she remembered what I taught her, and she's using it now. So yeah.
Is the talk about the scenario where, and this probably is what you were talking about, the person filled it out, came to you, brought it to your desk, whereas your millennial filled it out and IM'd you that it was filled out.
Oh, you're talking about the speed pay. Oh,
yeah,
right, okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, another situation is that now, again, the layout of my production floor is pretty wide. So I have employees that are pretty far away from my desk, and most of my employees are spread out. So when I go help people, typically it's more than one person that needs help. So to save me time and energy from going from one side of the building to the other side of the building, I work through IM. So one of my baby boomers, we'll call her Miss Carrie. Miss Carrie, when she needs help, she doesn't IM me, she doesn't email me, she actually gets up from my desk, she writes down the account number that she needs me to look at, and she might need me to override a payment. So she'll walk over to my desk, hand me the piece of paper, I'll do the override, and then she'll walk back to our desk. Now, my millennial employees, they would just IM me and say, hey, I need an override, and they will share their screen, and they'll give me control, and I'll do everything that needs to be done from my computer on their computer, just using technology, and we're able to solve the situation pretty quick. I didn't have to get up from my desk, they didn't have to get up, nobody had to write anything down, and we're done in under 60 seconds. That's the way that I prefer to work.
Now say her name is Miss X. No, her name is Miss XY. So we can fill up the space because we're going to do a voiceover. Instead of saying Miss Carey, we're going to say Miss XY. So, name is Miss XY. Say that.
Name is Miss XY.
Her name is Miss XY.
Her name is Miss XY. Hold on, I forgot I was supposed to do that.
Her name is Miss XY. Say it a couple of times in case he needs to patch it better.
Her name is Miss S. I said, okay, hold on. Her name is Miss XY.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about how the use of technology relates, or the inability of your workers to use technology when it comes time for their annual performance review or performance measures and benchmarks. Are they able to get a good rating if they're not able to use technology, or if they don't use the technology tools that you've described?
Well, there are certain metrics that don't rely necessarily on technology. Soft skills, the way that they build rapport with the clients, weighs heavily on their annual review or the mid-year review. Now, where technology comes in is the efficiency portion of their review, which currently in this company is about 15%. So they can still be successful in their role even if they're not necessarily up to speed with the technology portion of it.
That was a good answer. I like that.
Did you want to ask me about the 5 things I want to know, or multitasking and all that?
Yeah, go ahead. Tell me how, oh, wait.
Okay.
In the educational arena, we're having a lot of challenges with students who use technology that's legitimately required for the learning process, but they use it in what some of our lecturers at the college believe to be inappropriate use. And so, are you experiencing that same thing or something similar in your workplace?
Oh, never. Absolutely. It's something that I've been dealing with for the past 5 years as a manager, having direct reports. So yeah, I mean, cell phones, tablets, internet, Facebook, you've got Twitter, you've got Snapchat, and you've got all this here or on the computer. So a common theme is they're working, but they're checking email. They're working, but they're keeping up with Facebook. They're working, but they're posting statuses. They're posting statuses about them being at work. So it's not uncommon for me to walk by and see a young lady, and she has her purse out there on the desk, and she has her cell phone on top of the purse, and so when no one's looking, she's texting, she's Snapchatting, For guys, I typically see this. So I'm, you know, when I'm looking out on the floor, you know, looking out, just making sure that everybody's, you know, everybody's doing okay, and I commonly see this. Now, that means one or two things. So either that gentleman is very sad, he's had a bad day, or he's texting. 9 times out of 10, he's texting. And so when I come by, he'll just slide it underneath his leg. And I know it's there. The thing is, I know it's there. But there's down times at work. You know, do we expect everyone to stay on task, stay focused 100% of the time? As much as we would like to think it, but we know it's not realistic. So my main thing is that they keep the cell phones out of sight. I'd rather them be discreet with it, opposed to openly posting on Facebook while they should be on the phones with the client. We know what happens. What can we do about it? I don't know. I mean, even our company, we're telling our teammates to go on Facebook, go on Twitter to advocate for the company. So that same tool that our company expects our teammates to use in a manner to advocate, well, it gives them the ability to multitask and have a distraction. How do you rein that in? I don't know.
Well, in my generation, we did have multitasking. Let me sneeze, hold up. In my generation, we did multitask, but multitasking was within the job description, so that you could be talking to a client on the phone, writing some ad copy to advertise, helping your coworker when your coworker came in. You know, bosses and companies did not pay workers to have their social agenda going on in the workplace. As a matter of fact, we would have been reprimanded for that. So I'm sure that your boomers, as they're onlooking, really see a variation, but they probably have been grafted in by now, because the more we stay in the technological generation, the more we are exactly taking on those same traits.
Yeah. Well, how do you stop it?
I don't know. Pandora's box is open, but it didn't open in our generation. You all started this, so I think you all have to figure it out.
Well, you know, I definitely get that, but the way that the workplace is set up, it requires a computer most times. So a computer, I mean, with a computer we can do the work. Well, computers make the work easier. It allows us to do the work faster. So just as much as people say they're busy, we still have downtime. Even if it's 30 seconds.
It's enough to check your text message.
It's enough for me to know what's going on my news feed.
Okay, that's a good answer. Tell us about the case study. You know, when did you first get your management job at the company that you're now working for? How old were you?
Let's see. I was 25 years old.
And when you were 25 and you came into a new workplace, tell us about the case of one of your workers who was old enough to be your mother and probably twice your age in numbers.
Okay. So we're gonna call her Miss R. Well, Miss R I think she was about 55 years old.
Plane go by. Oh, that's the question. Okay, so you first started to manage when you were around 25 years old. And I remember you telling me that you managed many different workers of the various age groups, from millennials to Gen X employees to baby boomers. Can you tell me about an instance, perhaps, when you managed a person who was at least twice your age?
Okay. So there was one lady, we'll call her Miss W. Miss W was 55. The reason why I know she was 55 because she always reminded me that she was 55 years old. So that stuck with me. I think the reason why she reminded me she was 55 was to show me how young I was. She would commonly say things like, well, you know, when we had downtime, we'd start talking, say, you know, you weren't even born yet. You weren't even thought of yet. It was kind of funny at first, but when it got down to us having one-on-one meetings, and we would have these weekly, and I would have to monitor her performance, and if something wasn't done correctly, I would have to sit her down and train her. Or if it got to the point where it was like, you know, corrective action needed to be taken, I was the one that had to do it. So, as a new manager, one of the things that I was very conscious of is that I didn't want to come into the position thinking that I knew everything. So I was willing to learn, I was willing to listen to people, and you know, I respect experience, I really do. But right is right and wrong is wrong. So there was a situation where she was talking to the client and she was totally in the wrong. So after that interaction, I had to pull her to the side and began to tell her the way that was handled was inappropriate. And she gave me this look like, I can't believe this 25-year-old boy who hasn't been on this earth 30 years yet is telling me how to do my job. And she was pretty aggressive. Some of the other managers had issues with her, and it was a difficult interaction because yes, she had been there for a while. She was twice my age. She already had an aggressive nature, but in that situation, it wasn't about age to me. And I think that's one of the things that has made me, I guess, successful, as you would say, or one of the ways that I was able to build rapport across multiple generations is that right is wrong is wrong. I don't care how old you are. I don't care how much experience you have. So I had to be firm with her, and I had to remind her that in this position, this is what I'm required to do. This is part of my job. So at that point, I had to command respect. And there were a few more instances where she got out of line, but I remained firm, professional, polite at the same time, and after a while, we were pretty good, you know. So when she reminded me how young I was, it was more in a playful way. instead of, how are you gonna tell me how to do my job type of way. You're too young.
Okay, good.